Hey, what's up everybody? It's Grizz from Red Force TCG, your home for everything competitive One Piece. Today, I sit down with my teammate Jacob Hudson and talk about his top 16 finish in Peoria with Gekko Moria. But first, we want to shout out our sponsor, Game Euphoria. Guys, if you need singles for One Piece, Magic, Pokemon, whatever it is, scan the QR code on your screen and check out Game Euphoria. Thanks to Game Euphoria for being an awesome sponsor, and without further ado, let's get into the video. Hey, what's up guys? It's Grizz from Red Force TCG. I am here celebrating my friend and teammate, Jacob Hudson, better known as Grokwo in some circles. And we're going to talk today about his top 16 deck list from the Peoria Regional. Jacob, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Feels pretty good to finally get a top.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a long time coming. You know, you've historically had these tournaments where you're like, you know, one win away. And so what's it like, you know, kind of the culmination of playing One Piece and finally actually getting there?
It feels really good because you feel justified in like all your testing and all the practice you put in. So it just feels real good.
Awesome. Yeah, and I mean, all of us on the team know that you've been a really good player for forever, you know, so it's very gratifying, you know, seeing you succeed, definitely. But yeah, so you brought Moria to this regional, to the last hurrah of RP Law. Tell me a little bit about, you know, why you decided Moria.
There are a couple reasons for that. One is it fits my playstyle a lot because I am usually a blue Dofi player.
Right.
So it's like the blue Dofi, but like with your graveyard, so it's very at home for me.
Mm-hmm.
The other reasons are it has a close to 50-50 matchup into almost anything. Nothing feels just unwinnable. So with a lot of RP laws being played, like you have decent removal and decent tempo into them, and then with Lucci, like you can just do the same thing they're doing, just not as consistently at removal, but more aggressive in hand disruption. Yeah,
definitely. Was there any deck that you were? I mean, as you said, you know, nothing feels unwinnable. What would you say is like the deck you were most worried about?
Black Yellow Luvi was definitely the one I was most worried about, because if they see enough Sabos and Littles, like it's almost impossible to get through it. Yeah, just like the blockers in the 11K.
Yeah, I know as an RP Law player myself, this is the deck I don't want to see, and it's strange because like it's like after you take out Lucci, you're only killing one guy a turn. It's just the value that Moria gets is still just so hard, and then once you start dropping 8-drop Morias, it's, you know, it gets really bad for the RP Law player if I don't kill you quickly. So it makes a lot of sense. You know, I think this was a good deck choice. I mean, absolutely. So getting kind of into the meat and potatoes of the actual list that you brought, you know, some things, you know, are very expected, and some things, you know, I had a few questions about. So for your Thriller Bark package, you know, 4 Absalom, 4 Hogback, 4 Prona, that's very standard. I'm just gonna start at like the top of the deck list, and we'll kind of work our way down. Tell me, like, how has Hina been? Like, because I know like some, like in Gekko lists, maybe last format, some were playing Hina, some weren't. How has Hina been for you?
She's been really good. She feels like a very nice mid-range reduction threat. So she gets to be a relevant body, unlike Helmeppo. So on your like 6 Dawn turns and higher, you can play her followed up by an Epsilon for like 2 bodies for efficient removal.
Yeah.
And then like if you're on 7 Dawn instead, like you could do Rebecca Hinas and into an Epsilon in order to like present a blocker as well.
Sure.
It's just a nice recurable threat with reduction with Hina and Rebecca. So
yeah, that makes sense.
If you happen to have a Brook on play already, like it's just he kills a 5-drop easily, so you can do it off of Gekko even. Gekko into Rebecca into a Hina allows you to kill a 5-drop. If you put in Helmeppo, you can kill an 8-drop with a Brook that's already on the board.
Gotcha. Okay. So I mean, you kind of went into a little bit. 3 copies of Brook. I think like when I last checked in with Moria, like I think we were playing 1 or 2. Like, what's the reasoning behind just bumping him up?
The reason to bump him up is just because I wanted to just be like I was seeing a lot of lists with just like Epsiloms, and it just didn't feel like enough KO to me.
Oh, sure.
Because like you want to try to efficiently KO on your way up to developing your board, because if they just keep their board, they can swing back into you and your board pretty easily. And because you have a disadvantage of like you still have to discard a card to play a card, sometimes you are discarding like a counter card in your hand in order to play it, like a Perona or an Epsilon.
Sure.
So you don't always have high amounts of counter early in the game.
Gotcha.
So being able to remove
cycle.
things, yeah, being able to remove things along the way is really nice. With like Helm Epos or like, because sometimes you just don't see your Epsilons and you go for that first mill and you don't see any. And you're like, well, what do I do?
Right. So that like kind of opens the door for like, you know, on 5 or 6 Dawn, you know, maybe there's like a Helm Epo Brook play to be had, or like a Hina Brook play, something like that. Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. So your 2K is pretty standard, you know, the best Navy one, the best Thriller Bark one. 2 Helm Epos makes sense. I mean, I think some people were running like, I think I saw some lists with like 1, and it's just like, that doesn't feel consistent enough, right? So like, I think that makes a lot of sense. So one part of the deck that I feel like is missing is there's no brand new, right? Like, you have like the whole Navy package here, except he's gone. So what's up with that?
There's a couple reasons. One, it didn't feel consistent enough to actually hit with it. Like, you really don't have a huge Navy package or like a defensive Navy package enough to like grab like multiple 2Ks, because you only have the Surus to grab. Everything else is a 1K or a no counter.
Right.
And like a lot of times it just kind of just sat there on the board afterwards, and it's just kind of like well, I hope I draw a counter with this.
Sure.
So it just like just made some space. It was an easy cut to make space for other cards to try out.
Did you ever feel like you weren't able to fill your graveyard well enough without it?
I don't feel super prioritized to fill my graveyard. My deck's pretty built on just like killing things with what you have in hand if necessary.
Sure.
So the filling of the graveyard just comes secondary. You have your Surus and stuff like that as well. And you prioritize like discarding things you want to Gekko back later on early. So like, if you know you're not going to play a Rebecca early, like you want to like throw that out against a 5K swing as like, when you can before your 8 Dawn turn, because otherwise it'll just get stuck in your hand.
Okay, so you're kind of approaching it more as like I'm going to draw these cards, or I'm going to use the cards I draw to like inform what it goes into my graveyard for my leader, not necessarily just dump a bunch of cards in my graveyard and hope I hit. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I think that kind of goes in tandem with you're playing 4 Sabo, so instead of like, I think it's usually like 3. Is that sort of to help facilitate, you know, well, the black, you know, mirror, but like to kind of help cycle through the cards more often?
Yeah, it's definitely mostly for the black mirror, because like your Gekko Morias aren't necessarily better than most other Gekko Morias. Yours are usually just kind of a value Gekko, and then sometimes you snipe a small thing with like an Epsilon Palmepo kind of thing.
Sure.
So like you're not popping like 9 or 10 drops without an Ice Age, whereas like Lucci can pop like 6 or 7s by themselves for free.
Yeah.
So Isabo's just there because like sometimes your Gekko Moria just doesn't do much if you play it, so it's easier just to play Sabos to protect your board to set it up for the next turn.
Okay.
Because if you play a Sabo and a Brook into a Sabo on your 8 Dawn turn instead, Lucci can't do anything against that, and now you have an extra kill or a reduction on your field, so you can like Hina, you can Gekko Moria for like a Hina and a Helmepo, and that kills an 8-drop by itself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Swinging with the Brooks.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I really like the 4 Sabo 2 Borsalino. This is how I build black decks, is to beat other black decks. How common is this split nowadays? Because I mean, last time I was trying to build a black deck was, you know, maybe like a month ago. So like I'm a little bit behind on like the black, you know, meta game.
It's honestly like user dependent. I've seen plenty of people just play no Borsalinos because like they just don't feel like it's relevant.
Yeah. I feel like it's really good, and I mean, obviously you included 2 copies here. How was Bors over the tournament? Is it kind of the same as Sabo, or?
Kind of similar. It's just like sometimes like Lucci doesn't play anything you care about, so you don't really need to worry about Epsiloming them or anything like that. So like if you don't have much else to do, just playing a 4 for 6 that can't be killed is very, very nice. You gotta be careful of their finger pistol triggers though, because can kill those on your turn.
Yeah, that makes sense. So kind of backtracking a little bit, we were talking about the Navy package. You know, you have Suru, Helmeppo, Hina, you know, all for different purposes, not just because they're Navy. But you also, you know, you have the Bourse, you have Ice Age. What's missing, I realized, was you chose not to play Isho. Tell me about that decision.
So the reason I didn't play Isho is because like of the other card. I don't know if you want to get into that one now or not.
Oh yeah, okay. Let's save that one for the last.
Okay. So yeah, that one has to do with the other card as well. So.
Okay, I guess we can talk about it now. So he's referring to negative hollow. Tell me how that's like in tandem. You know, why'd you choose to play 3 copies of negative hollow over Isho?
So Negative Hollow seemed like a fun card to play around with because it's like a baby Isho that you can actually recur with a Hogback. And I figured like if I just take out the Ishos, adjust the ratios, and just play some more like other like low cost reducers, they kind of just fill that role. And it's also just an early turn play that you can do pretty easily. Okay. So whereas Ishos like they can play around it pretty easily by keeping their hand size pretty low. I've had a lot of games where they would just discard down to 5 or something like that, and then it'd be hard to get the Isho off. And then if you just like play it out vanilla, just hoping for the best, like it usually just gets removed. In the black mirrors or against like yellow. It's like a lot of times it just doesn't always survive. So I just wanted to give another form of Isho / reduction a try. So I just upped my numbers of reduction and slapped in some 3 negative hollows instead.
Gotcha. Okay. So set the record straight for me. How good is negative hollow? How you played through a whole tournament, 2 rounds of Top Cut. Give me the tea.
I'd say it's above average and not insane.
Okay.
Like you're never too upset if you see it because a lot of times you can just pitch it immediately to use for your leader ability. So it's not like it's a dead card in your hand. But like there's this randomness of element to it, this element of randomness to it where, hey, you could just hit the Lucci's Moria out of their hand and now like they don't have a top end.
Sure.
Which makes their deck a lot harder to pilot.
Sure.
I played against a Bonnie player and I just ripped a 10-drop Dofi out of the hand, so I knew I could be a little more aggressive later in the game because they didn't search any.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So overall, like, are you up on negative hollow? Are you kind of like, after playing with it, are you kind of like, I probably wouldn't do that again, or how do you feel about it moving forward?
I could see it still being put into my decks moving forward. There are matches where it's good and matches where it's not necessarily good. Like against RP Law, it's not necessarily like the strongest card because they're just gonna like refill their hand with Reijus. They're just gonna dump their board anyways. So like if they still draw hot, they're still gonna play hot. So, but with RP Law going out of the meta, there could be time to just be able to play negative hollows more often.
And I know you were telling me about like isn't like they're like I guess going second, you can like negative hollow turn 1 and then like discard a Hogback on turn 2, play Hogback, get back the negative hollow, like, and then like you can kind of like make your whole early game around it, right? Since
Hogback doesn't specify characters, he can get back events as well. So he can easily get back negative hollows if you want to go for just like the hand destruction route.
Sure.
Knowing that like they're not a super aggressive deck like against Bonnies and black yellow Luffy's. Like you can just start ripping cards out of their hand immediately.
Sure.
From the get go.
Or I guess you can like negative hollow on 2 Dawn, on 4 Dawn, attack, play Perona, and then that would leave you with on 6 Dawn. I guess you could bring back Hogback, and then play the negative hollow again, right? So okay, that's pretty cool. Okay, yeah, I know a lot of people were really excited when you decided to bring this, so that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, there was a game against a Bonnie player where I went turn 1 Perona, turn 2 Perona, turn 3 play a negative hollow, bring back it with Hogback, and then play a negative hollow again.
Oh
so
my gosh.
4 cards out of their hands, like within like 3 or 4 turns
That's
randomly.
hilarious. Did you run into anybody who was upset or like confused that you played negative hollow on them?
Most of them didn't know what it did. Some of them like didn't realize it was random.
They're like going to discard card. You're like, no, shuffle up.
Most of the time it was like no one was super upset, and if they were, it was less that they were getting negative hollowed and more just like they discarded an upsetting card, a useful card, and like it was like round 9 or 10 or something like that, and like a lot of stress.
Yeah, but I mean, like that's running like some spice in your deck like that people don't expect like can really throw people off in the later rounds of a regional. So I mean, would you say like that aspect of it was valuable?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like getting into Top Cut, like deck lists were open. So like people were just like would sit down against me and be like, I'm wary of this now.
You're the negative hollow guy.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, and that's sort of the downside where like late in Swiss, it might be a pro, but when Top Cut, when your opponent looked at your list, for however much time they want the night before, maybe you don't get as much value.
Another point of the negative hollow is like it doesn't really matter too much what you hit, because like if you hit any of their no counter cards, obviously those are their key combo pieces and their strongest cards, so you love to see those go. But if you're ripping 2Ks out of their hand for like 2 Dawn as well, like it's also very efficient as well, because like suddenly they're out of counter in their hand, you can clear the board with just attacks or like hit them down low before they can get their engine online. So
okay, yeah,
it's like it doesn't really matter. I was never too upset to see like a random 2K or a random 1K hit, because like it's still part of their game plan. It's still in their deck for a reason.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Can you briefly kind of tell us what you played against?
Yeah, I think overall I played against in Swiss I played against 3 Luchis, 3 RP Laws. One of them was one of my losses, a Black Yellow Luffy, which was my second loss.
Okay.
2 Bonnies and an Enel.
Gotcha. Okay. And how's Enel? Like, obviously you won. Is that supposed to happen?
It really comes down to like how much top end the Enel sees. Like you can efficiently keep their hand size low and keep your board state pretty good. Sure. But like if they just like top deck like 3 Yamatos or 3 Aces, like it's tough. Like
sure.
Gekko's not a deck that like can remove a lot of top end threats every turn. So if they draw way more than you have the removal for, it can be pretty rough.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, you were able to get that one, and then in Top Cut, you play 2 RP Laws?
I played against 2 RP Laws. The first one, I 2-0'd pretty easily. Saw my curve pretty well. The second one, they high rolled me. So used a negative hollow, hit a Reiju out of their hand. I was like, all right, less card advantage for them. And then on their turn, they just hard played a Reiju, and then leader played another Reiju. I'm like, he had 3 Reijus in. That's pretty crazy.
Gotcha.
They high rolled me pretty good. So
yeah, it happens. You high roll the law, and then the law high rolls you. So cool, man. Well, how are you feeling? I know, me, you, and the rest of the guys, we're testing for Nats. How are you feeling about deck choice for that? Are you considering bringing Moria for that, or is that what you're leaning towards, or?
It's definitely on my radar. There are there's 1 or 2 decks that I still want to test now that Luchi's isn't playing the stage anymore, and RP Law's gone. But for the most part, I feel like Gekko's still in a decent spot against most decks. So I will be trying it out again. Trying it out as well in my repertoire.
Yeah. Do you think, last question, do you think that Moria gets to be the best black deck now that Lucci doesn't have a stage?
I don't think necessarily so. I think Lucci will still be able to do the black deck mechanic, killing things a lot more efficiently still.
Okay. Because
they're just going to take out the stages and put in like Ice Ages and still be able to hit those high numbers with a lot more like consistency of like their kill cards and stuff. But I feel like Gekko is still the stronger aggro black deck. And with like the benefit of being able to play like hand destruction, like maybe that'll come into play a lot more efficiently now too.
Yeah, I mean, with a meta that looks like, Black Yellow Luffy, Anel, possibly Anel, Bonnie, like these are big hand decks. Nami, these are big hand decks that like, Perona's negative hollows. Maybe Isho makes his way back in. Maybe that's a thing. Well, cool, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for sitting down with me. I appreciate it. And again, congratulations. I know we're all super happy for you. Any closing thoughts? Anything else you want to say?
No, I just feel pretty good about my top 16 finally. See anyone in Nats.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks again, man. And thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace.